Each and every month we get to visit with my good friend John G. Pennington from George Kell Motor Company.
Yep.
We're talking Remember When, and I remember when you were number 64 for the Newport Greyhounds, my friend.
Yeah, well, that's been a while back, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
But I'm still number 64, and the class of 1968, after all these years, is still 10-0. We're still undefeated.
Still undefeated. Still beat the Pioneers that day?
Barely, 46-0 Thanksgiving Day.
It was a great day, wasn't it?
It was a great day.
Remember When coming up, I'm going to be talking with Bud Black, former teammate of yours, former right beside you. You were the right guard, he was the right tackle. Looking forward to the visit, but we're going to talk about some automobiles. We've
had a great introduction, David, of these new 2014 pickup trucks. We are just amazed at the difference in these vehicles. And I told you before, I've got a 13, and I really liked it until I drove a 14. I don't particularly like my truck anymore. I mean, these 14 trucks with this triple insulated doors and all this stuff they've done, they're bigger, stronger, more powerful, better gas mileage. They're a remarkable vehicle, and we want to invite everybody out to come test drive one of these GM CCRs or a Chevrolet Silverado. They are phenomenal. And this week, we just received our new Yukon and Tahoe. These are 2015 models. 15. They're 15s. You know, they want to make it as confusing as they can to bring a 15 out in 14. But they took so much time to get the 14 trucks introduced that they waited till after the first of the year to do the new Tahoe and Yukon. Fabulous vehicles. You just got to come see them. New things that they've done, the new touchscreen navigation systems, power folding third row seats, power folding second row seats. They're just a phenomenal vehicle. They've increased the gas mileage on them. They're still big SUVs. They're up to 9 passengers if you want to get the second row bench. I can go on and on, but the main thing is come out to George Kell, take a look at these vehicles, take a test drive, and let us work with you on them. They're phenomenal, and they're beautiful. They're really redesigned. You might not recognize it when you first see it. Come out and take a look. We'd be glad to work with you and get you in one of them. Hey, I think it's really important when General Motors takes a vehicle like you're talking about and watching historically the transition from where we were, say, in the 1972 to 1982 to 1995 to 2004 to 2014. It's amazing the progression in what technology that we have in an automobile going down the road. The technology is phenomenal. We went to Tracy, California when I was about 7 years old in a 56 Ford station wagon, no air, no radio. We played license plates, colors, I Spy, who could hold their breath the longest, you know, pokes, you know. 3 days of the 2,200 miles in just a car. Yes, sir. 3 on the tree, 312. Yes, Dr. Pepper Green it was. Dr. Pepper. And now you go down the road and with your cell phone, you've got Bluetooth, and so you can dial your telephone. You can call OnStar using your voice using dialing the telephone with saying the numbers. All of these things are not only for entertainment and convenience, but they're for safety. All of these things are to keep you from looking down. Don't go down the road trying to type something in, trying to find a phone number. You can do all that through your phone. It's hooked up through Bluetooth. And all these things like Pandora and Stitcher and all these things, you can play all your music from your phone through the Bose radio system. And then you've got the DVDs that you can watch the movies. God, well, that would have been great. You know, that coloring book I had, by the time I got to Fort Smith, I'd already torn all the pages out on the way to California. But now you go down the road and you've got, you know, heated and cool seats, and you've got navigation and DVD and all these things. Travel across America now is a breeze. Yes, it's just a breeze. And like I said, the technology it's hard to keep up with. A lot of the things are just seriously over my head. But you just got to come out and take a look at one of these vehicles and drive it around the block. And again, these 2014 trucks, they brought 5 parts from the 13. That's all they brought. 5 parts. 5 total parts of the whole vehicle. The whole truck. They took 5 parts off that whole truck. And I think flasher bulbs and some clamps or something out, but it's totally redesigned, totally different. And you just got to come out and enjoy one of them, and then take advantage of what we can do for you there at George Kell Motors. Boy, we have a great reputation back in that shop. I was going to say you can sell them, but you know, we've got people come from all over Northeast Arkansas, and even as far as Little Rock and places. Helena, got a good friend of mine. He wouldn't go anywhere to get his. He'll drive all the way from Helena for an oil change because he knows we're going to take care of him. If there's issues, we'll do that. So if you just want to buy a car anywhere, we'll do that. But if you want one that's going to be backed up with exceptional service after the sale with the best in the business, you got to come to George Kell Motors. That's the bottom line.
You know, I didn't actually talk to Bud about this in the program that's coming up, but I know that you guys ran around together in high school, and he talked about that part of it. But you've always told the story about him teaching you how to drive, talking about automobiles, George Kell Motor Company, and you and Bud Black go back a long way.
We go back a long, long way, and we were riding around one day, and he said, "Boy, I wish you'd drive sometime." He said, "I get tired of driving all the time." I said, "I don't know how." He said, "You don't know how to drive?" And I said, "I don't." He said, "Well, today's your day." And I said, "I really don't want you." He said, "Get over here." So we got out, and we were sitting back over by the country club, and he showed me how everything worked, where the brake was and all that. We in that galaxy he had there, you know, and so we started off driving around the parking lot a little bit, and I caught on pretty good, and he said, "Well, let's go." So man, we drove around, and one of the songs that came on when I first got out on the first road was "Nowhere Man" by the Beatles.
Yes, sir.
And Bud and I have shared that thing together all these many, many years. "Nowhere Man."
Nowhere Man.
And I can remember it. Yeah, I just loved it, and I thought, man, look at me. Look at me.
How old were y'all, about 12, 13?
No, we're a little bit older than Bud. I think was in the 9th grade, and I was in the 8th or something.
Okay.
We probably weren't supposed to drive.
Yes, sir.
But we shared a lot of good memories together and on the football field and off, and he's one of my all-time favorite guys, and I love him.
Absolutely. John G.
He was number 70.
That is correct. He was my friend.
Paul Duggar was 56.
56.
But hey, we lost a greyhound last week, and I did not know this till David just told me. Paul Duggar, good friend of all of us here in Newport, passed away last week. So, Paul, go Hounds.
Go Hounds. John G. Pennington looking for an automobile. Remember, George Kell Motor Company, and we thank them for helping bring, they're the lead sponsor here on Remember When, John G. for George Kell. What a great pleasure to continue on with our Remember When spotlight, and David Black's going to be the asker of the questions, and I brought along my sidekick, my partner for many, many years, Earl M. Bud Black Jr., Little Buddy, as Sonny Burgess just called him last week, Little Buddy, to answer the questions this time. We just thought it would be good to talk to somebody that has a great knowledge about Newport, Bud, and obviously you and I are both Newport guys, and we've been here a long time, and what better person to talk to about Newport and their history than to talk to an old guy like you.
You just want to get a young guy on here.
I did, didn't I? I did.
We've had some elder statements and statesmen.
Yeah, we have.
Statesmen
Yes.
on the show, and you just wanted a young guy to get on
Well,
here.
there's no doubt that everybody that's been on the show had some great stories, and know that you've got some great ones, and you and I talked about who was going to be next, and we thought you have some great stories to tell, and we've got some great Greyhound stories to tell, and looking back on Newport, Arkansas, and we're remembering when here on this broadcast, and a lot of great stuff to talk about. First of all,
yes.
Tell us, when did you get here? When did you arrive on this great stately earth?
I'm a half-century baby.
You are, aren't you?
Half-century, born in 1950.
Yes.
You know, July 26th, 1950.
Okay.
You know, and then you guys, Kenny and you, came along a little later. It was a great childhood. Had a lot of fun. Speaking of you guys coming along, I remember going to the hospital and sitting in the car. Now, you know, I was 4 years old and 6 years old. If you sat in the car now, they throw you in jail.
Right.
You know? But I sat in the car, and Dad said, "Now you keep watching up there." I said, "What for?" He said, "Stork's coming in." And so when Kenny was born, I missed that stork, you know. And then when you were born, I kept looking for that sapsucker, and he just wasn't anywhere, right?
Didn't arrive.
I couldn't find him. But I had two little brothers, and man alive, what fun.
Hey, Newport, Arkansas, born in Newport, Arkansas, just like all of us were, and talk a little bit about, Bud, about early Newport and what you remember, and I mean, just talk about starting in grade school. Let's start at grade school. Tell us about grade school, where the grade school was, what it was called, who were some of your teachers?
I went to East Newport School for the first 3 years. East Newport School, for those who do not remember, was located where Harris Hospital is now.
Yeah.
And there were 3 grades, as we said, and I'll remember I started in '56, and in 1958, 57, they condemned the auditorium upstairs because it was too rickety, And then in '58, I think they quit sending kids to school. The fourth grade, everybody, went to Gibb Albright.
To Albright.
Which is no longer there
They had to
either.
tore it down recently.
Say how old I am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But Miss Mary Nance Stites.
I hear you talk fondly of that lady.
Oh my goodness! And she was the second grade teacher when I started. My second grade teacher, my first grade teacher was the wonderful, the very, very famous Miss Fay Holt.
Absolutely.
And it just didn't.
We all had her.
Miss Pinky Watkins in the third grade. It just didn't get any better than that. People that cared and so much fun. You know what I remember about that old school? Two things. One, big persimmon trees.
Okay.
I don't ever see any persimmon trees anywhere anymore. And as boys will want to do, 6, 7, 8-year-old boys, we go out and get a stick and stick one of those old gooey persimmons on the ground and chase the girls with it, And downstairs, Mr. Aubrey Chapman operated the milk machine, just part of his duties as custodian.
Okay.
And milk was 2 cents. And you went down there and told him what you wanted. He opened up the carton or whatever and reached in and got it and handed it to you. Amazing when they got a milk machine.
Absolutely.
An automated milk machine, D.
Right.
And on top of that, for 3 cents you could get chocolate milk.
It was that much higher?
Boy,
extra penny? 50% more?
I tell you, good old East Newport School, and it just was a blast. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents growing up, Mr. and Mrs. Charles Gist.
Okay.
And they taught me how to fish. They taught me a lot of things about life. They're like all of us. They had their problems, but they were wonderful people, salt of the earth. And I just think of all the times that we go fishing. And man, I'm telling you, we were old-timey fishermen. My grandmother and grandfather and I get a cane pole with a swivel on it and a gold hook and put a minnow on there and a bobber and go crappie fishing. And we catch our fair share,
Well, fishing is one of the subjects we will talk about here. We'll continue on that subject. And you fished all your life. You loved the fish. Even when Goggy and Grandpa, as we called them, our grandparents, once they were gone, and I became your fishing partner, and we fished a lot and had a few good fishing spells out on the White River Cutoff, didn't we?
Boy, you and I had a lot of fun on the cutoff. We caught a lot of fish. When I was growing up with my grandparents, we would go down to Arm Lake and Bradford Lake most of the time.
Still like to go down there.
And still go down there and fish. But then we got to fishing the cutoff and catching a lot of fish, and that was a lot of fun. Also, my grandparents, I remember when school was out or on the weekends, November, December, they would take me down to Bradford to Mr. Vesti Westmoreland's property. He had the most beautiful pecan trees you ever saw.
Yes.
And we scrapped pecans. Now, our grandfather was a crippled man. You would not believe polio when he was a youngster, and I mean a terrible limp when he walked. But he had this climbing gear, and he'd put that stuff on, and he'd go right up that tree, and you just go, huh? How can that man do that? And took the big frailing pole, and he'd hit those limbs.
Pecans would go everywhere.
Right. Sound like a bomb, coming down there, and you start picking up pecans.
Well, I remember as a very young kid, and a very, very young kid, but when those pecans came down, they would tell you, get out of the way, don't get underneath the pecan. If those pecans hit you on the head, it hurt.
Oh, you heard
that? I remember that part about it.
My grandmother always fixed me a liver cheese sandwich with Miracle Whip.
Wow.
I cannot stand liver cheese today.
Maybe that's all you had back then. And we're in the 50s. We're talking about the 1950s and maybe in the early 60s.
But golly, gee, so many wonderful memories, and it was just fun, and you were a kid, and you didn't know a whole lot about responsibility. You were having fun and having a ball and being around friends and family. And our father went to work in 1946 after the war at Short and Brownlee.
Short Brownlee, absolutely.
Here in Newport, and he was selling Buick automobiles.
Yep.
one of my great adventures, I think, was about 1953, maybe 54. But Dad called Mother at home. Wives didn't work back then.
Right.
You know, and outside of the home. He said, "Where's little Bud?" Well, he's out in the backyard playing. Dad was at work out at Short and Brownlee out here on the highway. We lived over on Holden Street, way down on 720 Holden. So he's out in the backyard. "Are you sure?" "Well, I think so." "Well, he's sitting right here with me." "He's sitting there with you? How'd he get there?" "Says he walked." I just wanted to go see Dad. I was 3 years old, so I just took off down McLean Street and, you know, went out to see Pop.
Well, you mentioned earlier, and you talk about that building is the old International place. Used to be a Forster Implement Company, and it's across the street from the current John Deere Company.
Changed a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, down through the years. But you mentioned something earlier when you talked about it, and you said East Newport.
Yes.
And back in the 50s and 60s, and I remember as a kid also, talk a little bit about what East Newport meant. What's East Newport? What do we know as East Newport?
Well, really, Newport was about the lake.
Yeah.
Everything back west of the lake was
Yeah.
Newport. You know, Pine Street and Vine Street and Ash Street and, you know, the beautiful old homes, you know, still there. And many of them are still a decent state of repair. But East Newport, you get across the lake and you got into East Newport. And that's where, after the war, things really started to pick up. I think Mother and Dad's house, our house, was like the third house built on Holden.
Wow.
And it was 800 square feet.
Right.
And I remember Mother always used to tell the story that they got it all worked out, and it was going to be $28 a month.
Wow.
House payment.
For a house payment.
And then they found out that they'd made a mistake in the computations, and they called them and said, "Lois, it's going to be $32 a month instead of $28." She said she cried.
It's too much of a house payment, wasn't it?
You know, and then tell me things are better today. You know, tell me you know, it was a more simple time.
Well, it went from East Newport and then North Newport. I mean, obviously, and all towns do that, and they extend out to the area where they can build and have growth. Talk a little bit about downtown Newport in its heyday. I'm talking about when we were kids. I mean, downtown Newport was a flourishing commerce place to do business.
We've had a lot of guests on this show talk about it.
Yes.
Most notably, the one that really comes to mind is John Miner talking about it. David, there's so many stores. I mean, blocks and blocks and blocks of stores and shoe stores. I don't mean one or two,
Right.
7 or 8. Men's stores, at least 3 main men's stores, Gullick, Star, and PK's.
All in one block.
One block,
Yeah.
yeah. And women's shops, must have been a dozen of those. It just incredible. The commerce. You would go to town on a Saturday night to Front Street, and people were buying groceries. That's when they went to get groceries. If you lived in town or out in the country or whatever, and you stood in line at the grocery store to check out because there were so many people there. But that's when you did your socializing, your conversing. You saw everybody. Hey, how's everything going? You know, and everybody saw everybody. You know, that was able to get there. People don't understand what it was like in small towns to have. You younger people don't understand because you never saw it. What it's like to have that socializing, to have that spot, to have all those stores. To, you know, it was absolutely beautiful and so much fun. And I can remember going to the grocery store, and I always wanted to get some of that round cheese. I like that cheese and crackers. You know, and back then, when you went to the meat department, the meat was laying out on little trays.
Okay.
The pork chops were laying there.
I remember that.
The fryers,
Right.
the chickens were
Sure.
laying there. And you said, "Give me one of those fryers." And they took it and wrapped it up in butcher paper, the white
Absolutely.
paper, you know, and handed it to you. It wasn't all prepackaged.
Forgot about that.
All this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and you walked out with a whole bunch of packages.
No, you didn't walk out with anything.
No.
Somebody carried your groceries out for you and loaded your car for you.
I remember a lot of folks will have done this real quick before we take a break, I guess. I remember slaughtering a hog.
Right.
We go back down to mention Vesey Westmoreland at Bradford, and that was pretty strange to me where they got that hog and butchered him and put him in the pot and boiled all the hair off of him and then we took him to had him cut up, and my grandparents put the meat out on the back porch in what's called a salt box,
Right.
which would cure it and keep it from going bad. You know, you go out there and get some bacon, or pork chops or a ham or just, it was, I don't
like you
folks
cut it
don't
up,
do
put it
that
in the
today.
refrigerator and the freezer and put it in the deep freeze and have it for later.
There wasn't any deep freeze, And my grandmother, your grandmother, would raise a garden.
Oh, all the time. A big garden.
I don't mean a garden. I mean a garden the size of this house.
Yes, sir.
And it's a pretty good sized house.
Well, I think we had to. I think back during those times you had to. I mean, you a luxury getting you some good fresh tomatoes.
Oh,
People still do tomatoes today.
Yeah.
But boy, I do remember that. We probably do need to take a break. We're visiting with, obviously, Bud Black. Remember when? And he's the guest. And it's unusual for me to be interviewing him because he's always had the microphone and I've always been the guy who got to answer his questions. But the tide has turned and I've got a lot of good stuff coming up. Stay with us right here. Remember when with Bud Black.
10 for Newport with 52 seconds left in the third quarter, and Newport leading 20-14, and that is a big play in the football game.
Well, Bud, this deep in your own territory, and especially now with the big penalty coming up against the Hounds, you have to call your plays very, very carefully.
Third and 12 for the Greyhounds, deep in their own territory. Back at the 13-yard line, Newport on third down wants to throw into the flat. Theo Young wide open. Theo to midfield. I don't think he can outrun him. I don't know. He's to the 40. Cuts back to the middle to the 40. The 20. The 10. He's trying to get into the end zone. No. No play. Touchdown. Touchdown. Newport on third down. And Theo Young, who took it the length of the field. Unbelievable. Billy Keating with a great call. Newport on 3rd and 11 went into punt formation deep in their own territory at the 13-yard line. They snapped the ball short to Dykus, who was in the game. Dykus tossed it to Theo Young. There wasn't anybody from here to Van Buren close to him. And then the Alma defense came hard. The sprinters came to try to catch him, and Theo put on that extra burst of speed about midfield. I thought they were going to grab him at midfield.
When he got down to about the 30, Bud, he looked like he was completely out of steam. He cut across and just flat out run them, cut in the afterburner, and into the end zone for 6. They put no one back to receive it, and go ahead, Bud.
Newport will go for 2 points.
Visiting with Earl M. Bud Black Jr., Little Bud, Cable 15 TV, the voice of the Newport Greyhounds. There might be somebody out there that thinks maybe you're not, but we'll talk more about sportscasting here in a little bit and why you are the one and only voice of the Newport Greyhounds. Want to talk about high school. You went to high school, Newport, graduate in 1968. When you were in high school, Bud, what'd you guys do? I mean, you were 6 years older than me. What'd y'all do? I mean, I know what you did, and what's some of the places that you went to? Where'd you hang out? Who'd you hang out with? What did you guys do?
Well, back by 1968, several of our guests have talked about, they didn't have any transportation, but by 1968, a lot of people had cars.
Right.
Especially seniors. That could get a car, take it to school, and so we would be able to go places in town and do things, and whereas a lot of folks before us did not. The two biggies, well, there were three biggies. Paul's Dixie Queen,
Okay.
which was located right next to Buddy Black's Tire Store, the second incarnation.
Okay.
He started down where Farm and Ranch was.
Right.
And then moved to where Hardee's is now.
Right.
And right next to that was Paul's Dixie Queen.
Okay.
That was a teenage hangout. And then Sims Hi-Ho Dairy, which was out on the highway, Mr. Dan Hallbrook's property out there. People will remember. And Dog and Suds.
Dog and Suds.
We had a great Dog and Suds.
Which is located right across the street from Ace
Yes.
Churchman Building Center,
Right.
and it used to be the bowling alley, by the way.
Yeah.
Talking about looking back from the original bowling alley on Victor Lanes, and
You know what's amazing? You drive down the street and you say, I can remember when something was there, and what you fail to realize is you really think about it, you can remember when 5 or 6 different things
That's
were
right.
there.
That's
It's
right.
not just the latest, the last. But
what you guys do? I mean, you talk about you rode around. I mean, you listen to a little music on the radio.
We love-
We'll get into AM radio here in a little bit.
we love music. We love music, and seriously, unless you had a date, the guys like to get together and just ride around and have a good time. And my running buddies like John Pennington and Freeman Travis, and my dear friend who just recently passed, Paul Duggar, and Bobby Long.
Right.
These guys. We get in the car and drive around, and our favorite song was the Duke of Earl, and we'd sing it. I mean, we could circle town going Duke, 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 Duke of Earl. Duke.
I happen to have that question on my list. What was your favorite song?
Well, my favorite song of all time is a song by the Chiffons called "He's So Fine."
He's so fine. That's a good one.
But Duke of Earl was one we used to sing all the time, and I just, people say, "Bud, I'm sure sports has been your life." And you want the honest truth? Sports is great. It's been my life. It's been my livelihood.
You love music.
Music. I love rock and roll. I am a rock and roller. I'm a doo-wopper. I studied it. Now I've gotten old and I've forgotten a lot of it. But usually, if it was 50s, 60s, 70s music, I could about tell you, when, where, and why.
This amazes me about music.
Okay.
We're in the year 2014. You have XM radio. You can go back. They've got a 40s channel, a 50s channel. It's the 50s, 60s, 70s, 60s music. My kids like the 70s music, and the 80s music. And when we were kids, we didn't have music that we listened to that was 40 years old.
No.
Music exploded during your youth as such. I mean, the British invasion to
Sonny and I were talking about that. It's still rock and roll today, and we're on our 3rd generation.
Yes.
Of
same music.
Ben Black likes some of the same stuff that we listened to in the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
Now to match that, we would have had to, in growing up in the 50s and 60s, we would have to have liked swing music
in the 20s.
I like some big band stuff from the 30s and 40s, But it just, when rock and roll hit, popular music, rock and roll is like Sonny and I were talking the other day. It's just a combination of everything.
Right.
I mean, it's rockabilly. It's soul music. It's country music. I can remember back in the 60s, David, 50s and 60s, when the charts, you look at the top 10, and 5 of the songs would be in the top 5 on the pop charts, the Billboard Top 40, and it'd be the top 5 country.
Right, absolutely.
Also,
sure.
At the same time.
A lot of crossover music.
Yeah, there's stuff like Skeeter Davis, "The End of the World," which is a great song, #1 for weeks on both charts. And
what got you into music? Why music? I mean, was it the sound, the radio? I mean, who was the person? Was there some person that influenced you to get into music, liking music? Why'd you like music?
Elvis. First time I heard "Don't Be Cruel."
Good song. He did quite well with that one.
He did all right with it. I heard "Don't Be Cruel," and KNBY used to have a request show, and I'd call about 3 times an hour wanting to play "Don't Be Cruel."
So your love of music started because you heard the song and you said, "Well, I kind of liked it." Because I know this, at one time you literally had thousands and thousands of the little 45 records. A lot of people say records today, and they're talking about albums, and most younger generation, they don't have a clue what a record is.
Yeah, the little bitty records,
Yeah, a record of 45. I know at one time you had a lot of those. And
as Elvis said, "This is one of my bigger records." Actually, they're all about the same size.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's get into from music. I mean, obviously, you had a little radio experience, and you talked about calling in the radio station. But You want to talk sportscasting first that got you into radio? Or you want to talk about radio first?
This is your show.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about sportscasting because I think the sportscasting leads you into the radio business as far as being a DJ.
Yes.
So here we are. We're a young guy, and I remember as a kid, and I'll let you tell the story. Well, I'll ask you about these stories. Tell the folks about hitting rocks in front of our yard with a baseball bat. You would bend down in our driveway and you would pick up one of Dad's hard-earned rocks that he'd paid good money for.
This is at the new house, Normandy Acres.
In Normandy Acres, and you would pick the rock up and you would take your wooden baseball bat and you would hit that rock like it was a baseball, and while you were doing that,
over into Herbert Heffington's yard. Fortunately, Herbert didn't have the house built yet.
you were broadcasting. Tell us about that.
That old wooden bat.
Yeah.
I had 2 or 3 of them because the rocks would hit the end of it and take a chunk out of it. I just tossed that rock up. Boom. Line drive into right center. That ball could get down. Then right, it's going to roll to the wall. Runners around second. On his way to third. He's going to try to score. Here's the throw. Safe! It's a boy. I was pretty self-entertaining.
Well, but you did that, and I think you learned to broadcast, and also not only with the rocks, but as kids when we went to Norfolk Lake. And tell us about the boat stories. Tell us about those broadcasts.
There was a great race car driver, most of you don't remember now, named Parnelli Jones. Yes. And our family and several other families used to all go to the lake together, and we'd have little races with our boats.
Right.
You know. And I'd be in the boat saying, and Parnelli Jones moves up on the outside. He's in second place, headed for the finish line. It's going to be close. You know, and everybody seemed to love it, you know. And said, "You ought to do this for a living one day." And I said, I don't think I'm good enough. But the sportscasting was just from listening to Harry Carey.
Going to ask you about
yeah, there's nothing more.
Harry Carey, longtime Cardinal broadcaster, later on to become a Cubs broadcaster. Tell us about that.
I'll never forget. You know, you had a little transistor radio, and boy, you'd listen to the Cardinals. And my first Cardinal game, I think, was like 1959. And I saw things like I saw the San Francisco Giants with all 3 Alou brothers in the outfield.
Right.
You know, and be like you and Kenny and me out there with the Cardinals. Hit it on out there, right here now. You know, saw Stan Musial play. You know, his last year, and I saw him play 60, 61, 2, and the final year, 63. What an honor. What an honor to watch Stan Musial. I saw him hit a home run off that big old clock in the old stadium.
Right.
You know, I mean, it rattled that clock.
Well, while you're getting there, we'll get back to the broadcasting part of it. Who's your favorite? I know the Cardinals are your favorite sports franchise.
No doubt.
No doubt.
No doubt.
St. Louis Cardinals is for most people. Who was your favorite Cardinal? Who's your favorite Cardinal of all time? Was it Musial? Was it Brock? Was it Gibson? Was it Kenny Boyer?
Gosh,
if you had to pick your favorite, who's your favorite?
Gosh, Steve, that is so tough. I really like the competitiveness of Bob Gibson.
Gibby.
You know, but it was so much fun to watch Brock.
Yeah, Brock could play.
You know, when you're sitting in Busch Stadium and 40 or 50,000 people are hollering, "Go, go,
yes,
go,
yes.
go!" And
Steal
those
a
were the
base.
days when you steal 100 bases.
Yeah.
You know, and he was going after the records and stuff, and everybody's screaming, "Go!" And you're watching that pitcher, and he's doing this, he's nervous, you know. And when Brock took off, you know, everybody just stood up. It was a different game. Boy.
And Gibson you talk about a competitor, yeah, no doubt about it. Bob Gibson, you know, Hall of Fame guy, Lou Brock, Hall of Fame guy. And that's guys that you that you got to see play. Let me ask you this on baseball.
I was going to tell you one other thing about Harry Carey.
Yeah.
Bob Gibson struck out 6 in a row to start the game. I mean, they didn't hit the ball.
Right.
And the 7th guy got a foul tip, and Harry Carey said, "Get somebody ready in the bullpen. Gibson's weakening."
He's weakening.
Get him a foul tip.
Well, who were some? Those are the Cardinals, and you mentioned the Alou brothers. But tell us some of the other great ones that you got to see play. Who did you get to see play?
Got to not only see them but visit with them. Hank Aaron, Willie McCovey, you know, Willie Mays. Matter of fact, and you couldn't do it this day and age, but we were in St. Louis, me and a couple of 3 of my buddies, and somebody said, "Let's just call over at the Chiscapasa Hotel and see if we can talk to Willie Mays." Guy answers the phone. Says, "I'm talking." I said, "Who's speaking?" It is Orlando Cepeda. Hello, Mr. Cepeda. How are you? Is Willie available? Yeah, just one
Willie
second.
Mays.
Say, hey, what's up?
Unbelievable.
I couldn't talk. It's Willie Mays on the line. You know what's going on? I said, well, we're from Newport, Arkansas. I know you never heard of it. Oh, yeah, I used to date a girl from Newport. he was so good. Warren Spahn.
Yes.
What a Hall of Famer. Your Warren Spahn autographed baseballs for us. The most important thing I have is I got the 63 Los Angeles Dodgers. I waited at the hotel for them. And I had a ball, but I had some postcards.
It's a postcard. I've still got it.
Yeah, and I got people like Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale.
You did.
To sign that thing.
Pee Wee Reese.
Pee Wee Reese.
Crawford.
Yeah,
Willie Crawford.
Willie Crawford. Unbelievable. The 63 Dodgers, and just by asking.
Is there a Padres guy? Johnny Padres?
Johnny Padres, left-handed pitcher.
He's on that card.
You bet.
Johnny Padres. Have an autographed card. It's just it's a postcard of maybe a hotel in St. Louis or maybe even the ballpark at St. Louis. But these autographs they're all on one. There's like 10 or 11 of these guys. Trying to remember. I looked at it not too long ago, but I got it in a real safe spot. And you talk about something that's priceless. I mean, boy.
63 is.
Drysdale and Koufax.
The Cardinals were way behind, and in August and September won 19 out of 20.
Right.
And moved within one game of the Dodgers, and the Dodgers coming to St. Louis for a 3-game set. Koufax won the first game. The second game, Cardinals lost also, so they're 3 games behind, and they've got to have
the next game.
It's nothing in the bottom of the 9th, and Dick Grote leads off with a triple.
Okay.
And gets stranded. And in the top of the 10th, a rookie named Dick Nan, N-E-N, hits one on the pavilion roof for a home run, and Johnny Padres was the winning pitcher.
Is that right?
In the 1-0 game, yeah. And the Dodgers, of course, went on to win the championships. And,
63.
The Cardinals won it the next year.
They sure did in 64. All right, let me ask you this on the baseball thing. Talk about some of the guys. And I know you saw Clemente play, Roberto Clemente.
Yeah, saw him get his 2000th hit.
I was with you. And, what a great player, Roberto Clemente. But, you've seen Johnny Bench and Pete Rose.
Yep.
And tell me some of who might be your favorite player that you never saw play? So now we're gonna go back old school here. Obviously everybody wanted to see a Babe Ruth.
Yeah, Yogi Berra.
Yogi Berra. Never saw Yogi play. No. What a great Yankee.
Yeah, what a great guy.
Yeah.
Just what a great guy. And they said he was the best bad ball hitter ever in the game.
Right.
You throw it 3 feet over his head, look out.
Swinging.
He's going to hit it in the gap.
He's swinging.
I would have loved to have seen Berra play. People like to say, well, like to see
Mantle play. Did you ever see Mantle?
No.
I saw Roger Maris because he became a Cardinal.
Right, but in the American League, you saw more American League games than I did. You guys used to run up to Kansas City.
That's right.
Saw the Yankees in Kansas City a couple of times.
Did you ever see Reggie Jackson play?
No.
Saw him play. What a thrill.
I just see, but I'm all National League.
Yeah.
And the late Mr. George Kell and I used to talk about that all the time. He's, Bud, you old National Leaguer.
Aren't we all?
I was like, Mr. George.
Well, listen, we've got more to talk about, and I want to get into the broadcasting because and even though music might have been what you loved the most, broadcasting became your life, and it became your life in a small little old town called Newport, Arkansas.
Yep.
And I know you never wanted to be. You might want to have been the Cardinal announcer or the St. Louis Cardinal guy, but you made your mark on a lot of us here in Newport, Arkansas. We'll talk more about it with Bud Black on Remember When right after this. I want to get back to the broadcasting end of it, Bud, not just sports broadcasting, but radio broadcasting. But sports broadcasting is where you made your niche in broadcasting. And tell the folks the story about the first time that you ever got to be on the radio, KNBY radio here with Mr. Gene Howe. Tell us this story. It's a good story.
Well, Gene Howell's a good fellow. He, like the rest of us, has some problems, but a great guy. It always was, you know, fun to be around.
Manager of the radio station.
Manager of the radio station. David was one of the most intelligent people I ever saw in my life. He'd take that Sunday New York Times crossword puzzle, knock that thing out in about 20 minutes. It'd take me 20 days to do it, you know. And anyway, he was broadcasting some Legion games on AM. We didn't have nighttime radio, so you could do a Sunday afternoon game or a Saturday game. And they didn't do all the games during the summer, but one or two here and there. And Dad, I told Dad, boy, I think I'd like that broadcasting that sport. I was 13 years old.
Okay.
Might have been 12.
Okay.
But it was summer of '63. And he said, well, I'll talk to Gene and see what we can do. So he told Gene that little Bud's wanting to get involved in this. And said, I'll tell you what you do. If you just let him come up here and sit with you and be your gopher, so you'll break him from sucking eggs. He'll get tired of this. He won't want any part of it anymore, you know. So, man, I went and got the lineups. I went and got the soda pops. I went and got the hot dogs. I did everything. And boy, about the third week, Gene got on there and said, well, y'all know Little Bud Black. Most of you know his parents. And Little Bud's been wanting to get into this broadcasting business. And so I'm going to let him step in here and do a little play-by-play. And I just took the microphone and said, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Newport American Legion baseball field. And we've got a great game, Newport and PBMA. It's 1-0 in the second inning, and PBMA has a threat with runners at first and second base, you know, against Tommy Payne, who's on the mound, you know, for Newport. And Gene said, I never got the microphone back.
And that from 1963, obviously, as a junior high kid, and of course you played in high school football, a lot of basketball, but I mean you got a basketball story there that you got the microphone there, and you announced a lot of games down through the years, but broadcasting Greyhounds. Tell what did you do? I mean, after that, what was the next step? What was the next step for you as a broadcaster?
Well, we played basketball at Searcy one night, and the junior high played ahead of the senior high.
Okay.
And the senior high bunch, this was, I guess, the fall of '64 and the spring of '65, and Newport won the state championship, '65. Bill Ozier showed me a move. I'll never forget that. He said, Bud, if you'll fake this way, I was playing high post, fake this way and then turn and go that way. I made like 3 baskets in a row because Ozier showed me how to do that. I've always been appreciative of that. But anyway, junior high game was over, and Gene says, well, we're going to broadcast senior high game. You want to come on up and do it? I said, yeah. I didn't have a lineup card. I didn't have anybody. Number 27 has it as the free throw line, and you guys always jumped on me because every time the referee signaled a foul, I'd say, we have a whistle.
We have a whistle. Yeah, we sure do, but we heard it on the radio. We have a whistle.
So it wasn't perfect starting out, you know. It just, but you know, time, if you work at it, you know, you can get a little better at it.
So you go in high school, and obviously you didn't broadcast any Newport Greyhound football games because you played.
Right.
And looking back, and I'm asking because I really don't remember. I mean, when was the first time that you really got in the booth for a Greyhound football game? Did you do Walnut Ridge football prior to that? Tell us. I can't remember.
My senior year.
Right.
Football. My station, KNBY, was sister such station of KSUD in West Memphis.
That's right. I got it. Okay.
And Mr. Harold Sudbury owned several stations.
Right.
They taped their football games.
Okay.
And played them back the next morning.
Okay.
You know, Blue Devil playback or whatever. They called me and got me off the practice field. We had an open date the first week. West Memphis played Marion.
Okay.
No, Mariana played Mariana.
Okay.
They asked me to go broadcast a game.
You're in high school.
I'm in high school. I've never broadcast a football game in my life. Done baseball, basketball. And people won't believe this, but baseball's my favorite.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But anyway, I went over and broadcast the game and came back, and those 2 teams were in our conference.
Okay.
And Coach Counts asked me, you know, they played to a 6-6 tie.
Okay.
I said, we'll wipe the floor with either one of them. We lost to West Memphis 42-6, and we lost to Mariana 42-7 or something. Yeah.
So you started broadcasting football while you're in high school.
Yes.
You get out of high school in 1968. You go to college, Arkansas State University.
And Newport didn't have a job for me.
Okay.
They didn't have a job for me. So Bill Cade at KRLW in Walnut Ridge said, I understand that you've done some recreation. I said, we're going to start Bobcat playback and broadcast Walnut Ridge football. I just walked into where a couple of seasons, 68, 69, where they had really good football teams.
Right, sure.
You know, and it was a blast.
Right.
To do that. And they gave me a weekend job and a summer job and let me do Walnut Ridge baseball. And I mean baseball. I don't mean one game like every other week like Gene was doing. Right. We do 70, 80 games.
I remember it.
We go all over the country and play baseball and broadcast every one of them. You know, boy, what fun. I mean, and I thought, you know, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but this isn't bad. Not bad at all. You know? I kind of like it because people would come up to you, you know, and you were somebody.
Listen, yeah.
And you always, you know, I learned one thing, and I'll never forget it, and I try to stay this way today. Always be humble.
Right.
When someone comes up and says, I saw you on TV, or I listened to you do that game the other night, you know, you say, I appreciate you watching or listening, you know, because you do, you know, and you have to have humility. And it means so much, and people will come up and say, you're Bud Black, and I always say, yes, and who are you now? You know, let me know who you are.
Tell me who you are.
Right. You got to do your best to make folks feel good, and they've done this town, this community, just done an awful lot for me, Dee. So
you go from Walnut Ridge, and then you come back. What year here to start broadcasting or to be the sports director before you go into Forest City? We're here just a couple of years, is that right? So maybe, I know you were announcing games in 1972 in which I was playing in.
Yes. Matter of fact, I came back in the booth actually in 70.
In 70. So you're 70, 71, 72 first couple of games.
First couple of games, 72, and then I got a job at Forest City.
Forest City. Go to Forest City.
And I mean, I got a job.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, they
So you're in the radio business now. You're not only sportscasting,
I'm the advertising manager and the sports director at KXJK, a big 5,000 watt AM station in eastern Arkansas, well known, well appreciated, and I mean, coveted job.
Covering the Forest City Mustang.
You bet, Big Blue.
Big Blue.
And Al Miller was John McGregor, you know, who Newport Ties was the coach the first year, and then the next three, Al Miller. Right. We went to the state championship 3 years in a row and lost each time.
Oh man.
And lost to Swede Lee and Texarkana twice, and they were the real deal. So.
You rock along, you spend several years there, and then an opportunity comes for you to come back home. Tell us about your opportunity that you had.
Rick Rickelson called me. Thanks to your help.
Newspaper guy.
Mr.
Rick.
Orville Rickelson. He said, David said that you're looking for a job. I was graduating college. I'm the only guy that started college 68 and graduated in 77. I was a little slow.
You detoured because of work.
Yeah, I did work for a while. Anyway, but he said, I got a job for you. And I came home, and he told me what the job was. And I had been offered a coaching job at Highland.
Hardy Highland.
John Katrosh, football coach. He said, I talked to Mr. John Mullins. He gave you a glowing recommendation, said, I could not do any better than hiring you up here. He said, you don't have to interview. You've got the job as an offensive line coach, you know. And I regret this. I told him I'd take the job. And then didn't go.
Well, that's okay.
I didn't go. But it still bothers me.
Well, the rest is history because you came here not as a radio guy.
No, wrote sports columns.
Absolutely, for the Newport Daily Independent.
And sold ads.
Yes, sir.
And then went to work for New York Life in 1980.
Okay.
And Al Evans came to me and said, do you have any objection to getting back on the radio? And I said, no, I certainly do not. So in 1980, got back on the radio, and that's one of the most disappointing losses. Newport had a great football team and lost in the rain, and, you know, to, was it an overtime? Yeah, to Van Buren, 6-3.
Yeah.
6-3, 1980. And then the next year, of course, here we go.
You know, it's amazing because I wrote down 6, 7 questions that I was going to ask you at the end, and as we were going through and doing these,
we've answered them.
We've often talked about how we think alike, and you've hit on about every one of them.
Well, there's more to hit on.
That's right.
There's more.
So, 81 state championship game, and folks, I want to give a plug here. I want to give a plug because I listened. I was looking for some things to include in this broadcast, and I thought, well, and I have the 81 original broadcast of that football game, and it's on our website at www.cable15tv.com. And it kind of takes, you've got to do several clicks to get there, but if you get an opportunity, go to the website, cable15tv.com, click on videos. Then you have to click on sports. And I know it's a lot of clicks, and people tell me if you got to do more than 2 clicks, you won't get there. But it's worth every click you can get there. And if you can't get there, call me at 870-512-8427. I'll lead you through it. Then under videos, it says sports. You click on the sports, and there's Greyhound Classics there. When you click on Greyhound Classics, you can come across the archived game of the Newport versus Alma 1981. I'm telling this long story to get to this. The first part of it is Coach Keaty and Dick Clay they had a television show that they did over there at Channel 8. And then at the end of this show, we actually have the play-by-play of the state championship game in 1981. Mm-hmm. And I was just trying to pick out a few plays today, and I plugged that in. I got it on a DVD when I plugged it in. And I was just going to get the introduction because when Coach Keaty and I were visiting today, and we'll talk more about Coach Keaty in a little bit, he said, he talks about Robbie Crawford and Robbie Crawford. But anyway, I started listening, and I couldn't quit.
Yeah.
And I listened to the whole first quarter before I had to quit, before I had to come on. But it is, I listened to lots of broadcasts now, and after our season's over or when our game gets over early and you listen to guys, you, Freeman Travis, and Al Evans, and I did some little sideline reporting, but it is incredible. It is incredible, the broadcast. 1981 state championship game, but the quality of broadcast that we had for our Newport Greyhounds, and it was true. I could see the game that you were. I could see it. As you described it, I could see it. Great broadcast, folks. You need to listen to it. If you don't do anything else for the next 35 minutes, look it up on the internet.
You mentioned Freeman, and I've listened to the game. And what is amazing to me about that broadcast, you and I learned everybody's peccadillos and how to, when to talk, not to talk. Do this, bud. You do this, and I'll come in behind you. And Freeman, you can hear it in my voice whether it's an exciting play or not. I'm like this. It's a championship game. We've never won one. I mean, but Freeman is so tempered.
Yes.
I'm saying it's 3rd down and 7. It's a big play. Need to hold him right here, bud.
Absolutely.
Really need to hold him.
Yes, sir.
He's so good.
Well, y'all made a great team.
He was so good. He was so tempered. He was so. Let Bud take this up here, and I'll bring it back down right here. It was.
Well, you listen to his comments about the game, and I'm just telling you, it's real good stuff. If you want to listen, number one, it's a historical. It's the first state championship game that the Hounds ever played in, the Hounds ever played in, and coming off the disappointment of the year before that you mentioned earlier about the 80 game with Van Buren, and to defeat Alma in a great football game, it's just you got to go listen to that. We got a lot more to cover, and I guess we could sit here for days on end and talk Greyhound sports. We've got good stuff coming up. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with Remember When and Bud Black, Little Bud Black.
Right near the marker, and I think he stepped out beyond the marker. It is a first down Greyhounds with 52 seconds left in the football game. Greyhounds are going to do it, I think, folks. 52 seconds left. 26-14, Newport up by 12. First down, Dykes falls on the ball. Clock is down to 48 seconds, down to 30 seconds.
One play.
It's down to 26. Newport leads 26-14. Newport has whipped the Alma Airedales and is bringing home the state championship to you folks at home. Dykes again falls on the football. It is down to 12 seconds. The Newport fans are going crazy across the waves. Down to 7 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Billy Keaty has done it. The Newport Greyhounds have won the state championship.
Greyhounds are the 26-14 champions. The Hounds are going to run out the clock. Here on the sidelines, everybody out of the stands. The Newport Greyhounds are the 1981 AAA state champions. That's it.
Continuing on with Remember When and Earl Morris. Bud Black.
And if your name was Earl Morris, you change it to Bud too.
Yes, sir. Little Bud Black, obviously, because our dad was Earl M. Black Sr., and we called him Buddy, and then it was Bud and Little Bud, so Little Buddy Black. And talking about broadcasting, we left you last. We were talking about the 81 state championship game, and you're back broadcasting, and lots of good years coming up. And just kind of tell us about, what do you remember about those years? And let me say this. And this is Bill Keaty Day, and I want to specifically talk about Bill some.
Okay.
Bill Keaty has told me countless times, and there's no doubt, and listen to that broadcast, you'll believe it, that he'd heard from all over the state of Arkansas, and when he was inducted to the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, your calls, there were several of your calls that was in that program down there that night. But Bill Keaty says no doubt he had a lot of people tell him that you were no doubt the best hometown play-by-play game in the history of this business. And there's no doubt you're pretty good. Bill, you and Bill had a good run together, and you had kind of, when you came back home, you were talking about writing, and you were writing sports articles, and you were covering the Greyhounds then, and you came back virtually, about the same time Bill Keaty did, and y'all made a great run together.
Well, what happens, Dee, is you're young.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Keaty was 30 years old when he took over as football coach.
Right.
He's 109 now. I'm right behind you.
Yes, sir, you are.
But you're young, and you've got energy, and it's exciting, and it's fun, and you've got it in front of you, and you've got time to build something. And, you talk about the perfect storm. You got to win.
Right.
Winning, they say, solves most all ills.
Right.
And everybody wants to be a part of a winner. And when you start winning, you'll see people at the football games and you never saw a football game before. And they keep coming as long as you're winning. And for years and years and years, we won. And people came. And my gosh, 7,000 or 8,000 people at a football game. Now it was the perfect storm. We had great coaching, a wonderful bunch of athletes, for a 15-year period. Just the community, the things this community did. I mean, the pep rallies, the send-offs.
Raising money for championship rings, going to bowl games when you'd get on the radio and in a couple hours' time, raise $20,000.
In 2 hours.
Yes, in 2 hours' time. Just for, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to send the Greyhound football team to the Cotton Bowl this year. Would you like to donate some money? Yeah, I'll donate $100. Yeah, I'll donate $150. Yeah, raise $20,000 and send the kids.
Yeah, and then when they won state championship in '91, later on, buying rings for the kids.
In less than 2 hours.
Yeah, it took about 45 minutes, and that was another $20,000.
Yes.
And I mean, they were just. I remember Dr. Steve Castleberry said, here, I'll buy two. Here's $200.
Absolutely.
I went, man, this is great. The money was flying in from everywhere. People wanted to be a part of it.
Right.
People were proud of the kids. They were proud of the school. They were proud of the accomplishments. You pick up the Arkansas Democrat every day, And before the Win Yellow Jackets, this is the Beast of the East was the Newport Greyhounds.
Right, absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's what everybody read about and what everybody talked about. And my goodness, I mean, the great games down through, I know we lost those games to Dollarway, and that's the most gut-wrenching game, the 89 game. 7-3. And, but there's some pretty good games at War Memorial, like winning in '91 and beating Camden Fairview. Camden Fairview is from my buddy Don Campbell, former coach, retired coach down at Wynn. Said he was driving down the interstate, listening to the game, and boy, Camden Fairview is a huge favorite. you know.
We're playing in the semifinals of the state championship
Right.
in '89.
Yeah, and they're thinking, you know, the winner.
88.
Yeah, the winner here automatically is going to win it. Well, they didn't, but
I can't remember, 88 or 89, but anyway.
our defense was just swarming. They had a great offense, great quarterback. I think they made 3 first downs that night. And I mean, we were all over the place. And I mean, they tried to run a sweep, and I said, he's hit on the outside about 3, 4, 7, 8, 10. Must have been 15 Greyhounds on the tackle. And Don Campbell called Bill Keating and said, would you tell Bud Black and announce of yours that there's only 11 out there. There's not 15 of them. Well, they look like 15.
Well, it was a great game, and the Hounds, and it was at War Memorial Stadium also
Yes,
the week
sir.
before we played Dollarway.
Yeah.
And I guess 88, Johnny Alliston, the quarterback. And,
Yeah.
the 88, and win that ball game 17-0. Number 1 team from the Arkansas Democrat and the number 1 team from the Arkansas Gazette.
Yeah.
There were two papers then, and matched up 17-0. Hounds won in a just a dominated defensive fashion, and you know, lucky enough to you know, be there and get to call those games. And you and I spent a lot of time together in the booth and did a lot of broadcast. And
How long was it?
I don't know, Bud, but it was a long time. You know, Randy.
Over 30 years, maybe?
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
And I started, the show's not about me, it's about you, but I started when I was 13, being the gopher guy and going to get the Cokes and getting the lineups and for you. And I remember the old American Legion field, some of you folks will remember the old American Legion field where the gymnasium is now, and you had to go up to the, what did you call it, the crow's nest. You walked in behind, you had to crawl over the fence, and the fence would catch your leg and cut your leg. And
Or as Gene called it, the big ashtray.
yeah, the big ashtray, absolutely. Yeah, the big ashtray. A lot of fun. Covered American Legion baseball. Boy, we had a good run one year. We won a state championship, got to go to regional. Talk a little bit about that.
1985.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that.
85, and beat Conway in the championship game. Another one of those things where we had Tuckerman kids, we had Grubbs kids, Bradford kids, McCrory kids,
Right.
Augusta kids. I mean, from Chris and Flake and McElrath and Stout. You know, they just kind of everybody just kind of blended in together. Bobby Bailey,
Right.
playing shortstop, and we had a really good baseball team. And Dee Stewart was the coach. And
I guess Sonny, the assistant coach,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah.
Sonny Burgess, assistant coach.
After all the frustration, those who don't remember, Newport started its program, reinstituted its program in 1951, the Legion program, and they were 9 times the runner-up in the state tournament. I never won one till '85. So
Darren London, the catcher on that team?
Yeah,
Is that right, Darren?
yeah. You know, we almost didn't even make it to the tournament.
Right, I remember something.
We had to beat Blytheville twice at Blytheville, to make it. And they had runners at first and third and nobody out, the winning run at third. The guy off first takes off like he's trying to steal second. Well, London just raises up and pow, fires a bullet down there. They tag him out. Everybody's looking around. The kid at third stays at third.
One out.
We get out of it, come back, score 4 runs next inning. Send it to a game 2 and win that one going away.
And the thing about in 1985, and you talk about winning a state championship, there wasn't divisions like, the larger schools, the medium-sized school, the smaller. It was, when you played, you played
Pine Bluff.
Fort Smith, the best from Fort Smith, the best from Pine Bluff, the best out of Little Rock. I mean, you put Texarkana. It was Newport versus all the Cabot.
Right.
I mean, we played the big guys.
Now they do it like they do the public schools.
Public school in classifications that do with population of your school.
We had some great Legion games. I mean, we hosted the state tournament several times. We hosted the regional tournament in 1958 and 1960.
Okay.
I remember Dad was a host for Nacogdoches, Texas, one year. He led them around the town, showed them where to go and everything, took care of them. And Rusty Staub played for Metairie, Louisiana. And in '58, I'm pretty sure it was, I know they won it and went on and won the Legion World Series.
Okay. Rusty Staub. He was a good one.
Oh, man, Le Grand Orange.
American Legion baseball was big back in the day. I mean, there wasn't a lot of.
You got a single play you remember?
about in American Legion baseball?
Yeah, whether you played it or not.
One play that is a very, very vivid play for me is Kearney Blaylock throwing a guy. Is that it?
That's it.
Kearney Blaylock in I guess this was 1970.
Or 70.
1970, and I guess we were playing Fort Smith Kerwins, and for some reason they were the home team, but it was a bottom of the 8th inning, 2-2 game. They got a hit runner at second. Blaylock came up throwing from center field, and he threw a one-hop strike to Steve Ahart. Ahart tagged him out, and Paul Foster rang him up.
Paul Foster, the umpire, Paul Foster took his mask off, and here comes the runner, and here comes the tag, and Paul Foster just takes it, walks over 2 steps to the runner laying there, turns around and looks at the crowd. He goes, "Oh!"
Yeah, I remember he asked Steve, said, "Show me the ball, show me the ball, show me the ball." Steve shows him the ball. And
that place exploded.
It did. It was. Is that? I can't believe that would be the play that I would remember. Yeah, I can't believe that'd be the one. But I do remember that.
And we lost the ball game. But anyway, that was a.
Went 17 innings.
Yeah.
Lost the game in 17 innings. Yeah. What a classic baseball game. And you know, you talk about American Legion baseball, and it was great. Newport Greyhounds and covering the Hounds was great and fantastic, and a lot of sports casting. And I guess you've done a lot of it. You have done championship games.
Mm-hmm.
You have done Little League football at War Memorial Stadium.
Tuckerman Little League.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I don't remember exactly how it happened.
I don't either.
Somebody, I don't know who it was at Tuckerman, may have been the Thomas family.
Okay.
They had some, youngsters, a little bit of pee-wee football.
Right.
They were going to play a Little Rock team, play at War Memorial Stadium. They called the radio station and said, "We'll pay to send Bud down there and broadcast the game." So James Black and Bud Black and L.D. Hoover loaded up and went to War Memorial and broadcast the Tuckerman Little League football game that day. One of the most fun times we had ever had. And then on the way home, we were starving, and we got to about Bradford and said, "Man, let's pull over and get something." And we pulled over, and there was what looked like a little dairy bar. And they had 3 tacos for $1. Sir, don't ever get 3 tacos for $1. No. Don't go there.
Oh, man. It's Remember When. We're visiting with Bud Black, and we're talking about Newport, some great things and what he remembers. And we've got to get out of here in a little bit. But I want to ask you a couple of things here real quick. Al Evans.
Yes.
Guy who I know that you have a lot of respect for. And Al, died a young man, died at 47 years old. Died of a heart attack, 47 years old. But talk a little bit about Al Evans.
Well, he always treated me like a son.
Yeah.
He always, and the most important thing Al Evans did for me is, "Bud, I'm depending on you."
Right.
Boy, you talk about make you feel good. You talk about make you want to run through a wall. Not, hey, get your rear end out there and go to work, It's, "I'm counting on you. I'm depending on you." Yes, sir. It just, and it was fun to be around. It had this voice. Oh my gosh. And just, he if ever there was a great radio guy,
he was a good
Al Evans.
Great guy. Al Evans is a great guy. Just a great guy.
No doubt about it.
I remember Al, when you would go in and talk to him in his office, and he'd lean up, and he'd grab that tape dispenser, and he'd pull him off a little piece of tape.
Yeah.
He'd put it together, and he'd put it out there, and he'd chew on that tape while he's visiting with you.
Funny the habits we have,
Yes, I remember that. I do.
Al died on September 15th, I think, 85. Jane's birthday. 47 years old. It was an absolute stunning shock.
Yes.
A shock, It just.
Well, I know he meant a lot to you. Ben, where are we on time? We need to take a break. We need to keep rolling right here. Let's take a break, and we'll come back with the final segment with Bud Black, Remember When, right after this. hadn't got through all the history, you get here and you get to talking about stuff that's near and dear to our heart, whether it be Greyhound football or American Legion baseball, and you talk about the great games and such. We've been around a long time to broadcast and had the great fortune of having lived for as long as we've lived to get to see the Greyhounds and continue with the great tradition that we have over there now. But a couple of things that I wanted to do is you go from radio business, and you were in the radio business up until, well, I guess I can tell you if I could find my other sheet right here.
95. Yeah. Actually,
94.
94, yeah.
Yeah. Here is in my hand, and you didn't know I was bringing these, but
in my hand.
Are
you doing an auction?
In my hand is a copy, May 3rd, 1994, the first ever Riverboat Trader edition. And some of you go, what in the world is the Riverboat Trader edition?
Most folks remember.
Tell us about it. Tell us how we got to the Riverboat Trader.
Well, my friend, Jane's friend Sandra Lacey had a lot to do with that.
Okay.
I had been piddling around with some folks here in town that were working on a shopper and, couldn't get it off the ground. And Sandra said, well, Bud, why don't you just do it? And I said, oh my gosh. I said, everybody said, you cannot go head to head, with all the competition out there. And like I say, the Newport Independent was a daily newspaper, and they were doing a good job. And got the radio station, a lot of competition for advertising dollars.
Okay.
And so, and I said, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll put some articles in it that nobody else has got. We'll have Ben's friends. And Ben was just a tyke. I said, I'll do an article. David do an article. It's just something nobody else had. And then the real kicker, you get these things, and a lot of people call them shoppers or rags or whatever, and you go by the convenience store and pick one up, and the circulation is not very good. It's not very good. They put out 25 papers at the, and maybe a grand total of 200 or 300 in the whole community. So we made the conscious choice to home deliver the thing in Newport and Tuckerman. That's a lot of work.
A lot of work, a lot of fun.
A lot of work, a lot of fun, and it worked.
But we're talking about the Riverboat Trader and home delivered paper, as you mentioned, and we did this for several years, and this kind of led into something a little different that we've been doing for 20 years now, and that's the cable television. What was the transition from newspaper to TV?
I was working at the radio station, and I had, make a long story short, we had some disagreements with management. And so I went to Paul Eddington at the cable company. And I said, I'd like to put the Greyhounds on TV. And he said, well, you doing the radio. I said, yeah, not if I can get the Greyhounds on TV. I'm not
going to put the Greyhounds on TV.
And he said, I've got a camera. Really? Mm-hmm. And he said, I've got everything you need. He said, I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You just go handle it, and we'll work out a fee arrangement, which we did, and then we'll go from there. And Paul was awfully good to us.
Paul Eddington was a good man.
He was awfully good to us. And we didn't even have a channel. This is 94. So what we did for the football season of 94, we preempted the Weather Channel on Saturday mornings.
Channel 8.
Right. Football was so successful, we decided to go ahead and do basketball. Right. And then all of that had got so successful, and we were doing special events also. And Paul came to me and said, look, he said, if you'll run it and just treat it like a business and everything, he said, I'll get you a channel.
Right.
I'll put you on channel 15. I said, our own channel? He said, yeah, you sell ads on it, you do your own programming, just pay me. And, he said, I want you to do a lot of community programming. Sure. He says, well, you're doing that anyway. He said, we're required to do so much stuff in the community. And I said, well, that's what we do. And it just kind of took off.
People might remember the Breakfast Bunch program that along that time came along, where we had a live television show, 6:30 to 8 o'clock every Friday morning. Just did it once a week. We didn't have enough personnel do a live TV show, every day of the week. But pretty good show. Great show, wasn't it?
Yeah, David, not everybody's been kissed by handsome Jimmy Valiant.
And speaking of handsome Jimmy, he's coming. He's coming to see you, by the way.
Okay.
Sometime next couple of weeks, he's coming. I talked to Ricky Rowland the other night, and he said that Jimmy Valiant, every time that Ricky Rowland
wants to see us, yeah.
Every time he talks to handsome Jimmy Valiant asks about my boys at the TV station.
Good deal.
My boys at the TV station.
Good deal.
Anyway, I gave Rick my cell phone number the other night.
He's a great
call us.
fella.
All right, before we get away, got to talk about your relationship with the legendary Coach Bill Keaty. He's a lot more to you than a coach. And before we talk about y'all's relationship, I got to bring this up. I think this is one of the most incredible pieces of history that we have for Newport Greyhound sports. And what this is called the Keaty Chronicle. And it was put together December 20th, 1995. It actually took us about 2 months to put it together. And this was a look back of Bill Keaty's retirement and his long storied history of coaching in Newport. Ben, you got a good shot because I'm fixing to have to set her down there. 1977 and 1995, and I bring this to share with us, not only to introduce us and to get to talk about Bill Keaty, but to also brag on you. We're in that business, we're in the TV business, we're in the newspaper print business, and we thought we wanted to do something to honor your good friend. And in this magazine, folks, we write some articles, Bud writes an article, and I write an article, so on and so forth. But here is a letter to Bill Keaty congratulating him. You don't have to zoom in if you want to, you don't have to. From the President of the United States, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton wrote a congratulatory letter to Bill Keaty. Now, and you keep going through all this. Here's one from former President Jimmy Carter. Here's one from the University of Notre Dame, head football coach Lou Holtz. Here's one from the University of Rice, head football coach Kenny Hatfield. Here's one from the Dallas Cowboy Football Club, Larry Lacewell. Here's congratulatory messages from Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 11 TV. I mean, this is great stuff, and all put together to honor your good friend, but it was because of your hard work.
Yeah, I remember
that we have this.
We were looking at deadlines, and we did not have the letter from Bill Clinton, and that's the only thing we lacked. I mean, we had all sorts of people working the phones trying to help us to get Leon Panetta to get Bill to sign the thing, and boy, we were very, very fortunate because we had to go to press, and it got there about 10 minutes before we had to go to press, I even had, let me throw this in, I had some people tell me that those were fake. If you'd worked as hard as we worked on getting those things, let me tell you what, you say what you want to, but they're all authentic, they were all asked for, they were all sent by these people. So,
well, it's a great piece and just wonderful, and leads us in to talk about your friendship with not just Coach Bill Keaty, but with Bill Keaty.
Bill Keaty and I grew up on Holden Avenue. He's 5 years older than I am, but when he was in high school and I was down in junior high, for some reason there were times when we kind of ran around together. I mean, he was running with his older guys, and then I had some younger guys I was running with, and it seemed like they all blended. We had from like 8th graders on up through seniors, and we kind of had some mutual friends, and then of course you get away, and I go on to high school, and Bill goes to college, and we don't acquaint each other much until he comes back to Newport. We both came back to Newport in the fall of '77.
Right.
I came back to work for Orville Rickleson, its papers you mentioned, and Bill came back to coach the Greyhounds at the same time. And he told me, and Bill told me, he said, look, I need your help. He said, if you'll get on that radio, and if you and help me promote, or newspaper, and help me promote, whatever the case may be, he said, we've got a chance to really build something here. He said, everything is just right. He saw it before anybody else did. He saw it coming together, and we have been such great friends. The friendship just continues to grow, and it just, You know, I'd do anything in the world for him, and he'd do anything in the world for me, I believe. And you know, we've been through thick and thin. We've been through great times. We've been through some rough times. He's just a fella. Bill Keaty always told me something about coaching. I said, "What's the biggest mistake a coach can make?" You know, I'm thinking he's going to say, you know, well, not scouting the team properly, you know, or not looking at film. And he said, hurting a kid because you're mad at his parents. Yeah. He said it's inexcusable, and if you do that, you should resign from the profession.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's just the worst thing a coach can do. Hurting a kid because you're sore at his parents.
Yeah. And that happens from time to time, no doubt. I know that you and Coach Keaty had a great relationship, and just real quickly before we get out of here, bud, I got to ask you just a couple of things, and just off the top of your head, quick fire questions. And
okay.
If you had to interview, you've interviewed heads of state, governors, presidential candidates. You've interviewed lots of guys, lots of women, influential people, U.S. senators.
Mm-hmm.
If you could interview one person, dead or alive,
mm-hmm.
who would you want to interview?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, because of what he went through. He saved this country. I mean, if the Union falls, I don't know that we have a United States. Okay. And it cost him his life.
Okay.
But he was, if you've never read Lincoln and his writings and how intelligent and well-spoken he is, just, you know, you need to. Just an old country bumpkin, you know, who read by candlelight, who learned, who picked up every book he could get his hands on. Yeah, Lincoln. I'd love to sit down and talk to Lincoln.
Quick fire questions. Here they go.
Okay.
If you could broadcast one event, one final time, what would it be?
Something I've already done?
Maybe, or something that you've never done. You could be the broadcaster for an event, professional, college, one event. You get to do the event. You're the broadcaster. What would you want to do?
Believe it or not, I'd like to do a Cardinal game.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sit in the booth and be a Cardinal game.
Yes,
Doesn't have to be the 7th game of the World Series.
No. And I missed my opportunity. I mean, I always wanted to play third base for the Cardinals, and I figured after the first year at Little League, I wasn't going to play third base for anybody. You know, not even Newport Builder Supply, who sponsored the team. You know,
people say you
Mr.
had.
George,
people say that you had that talent, that you could have done that, but you chose to stay in Newport, Arkansas.
Mr. Kell told me, he said, I can get you involved, and he talked to me about, I think it was Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
AA Farm Club.
Okay.
I wanted to go broadcast games and get in a Tiger organization or something and do that. I was 18 at the time.
Right.
I wanted to go to college.
Right.
I wanted to meet girls.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to learn how to do something. And but anyway, that, you know, I didn't get to do that, and but that's okay, because whatever you give up, you know, you give something up. David, this couldn't have been a better life. This could not have been better than to stay in Newport, Arkansas. And I get so tired of people badmouthing Newport, and, you know, sometimes I'm one of the world's worst because I get discouraged. But boy, there's so much to offer, and I have never, on behalf of anybody, asked for help from the citizens of Newport that they didn't line up to help.
Sure did. Been doing it for years.
I've seen them give their last $5.
Yep. If it's an important occasion, the folks in Newport, Arkansas have usually risen
and I don't
beyond
know,
the mountain into the skies.
I don't know if it's like that everywhere.
Yeah, it's a good place to live, isn't it?
Oh, it's unbelievable. And this stuff about, well, there's no opportunity, you know, yeah, there is. You got to make opportunity.
Yeah, you make your own. Who would have thought when you decided 20 years ago we were going to do television, going in the television business, had been 20 years later, and we'd be sitting here doing interviews, and remember when, and me talking to you old folks.
Wow, you were absolutely right. That is true.
Bud Black, my friend, I
Been a
love you.
blast. I love you too, buddy.
It's a great honor to sit down and get to do Remember When with Bud Black. It's a program that he and I talked about for years to do, and I don't know that who's any more honored to. I'm honored to do it, and I don't know that anybody that's any more deserving than to be on that chair than this guy right here, Bud Black. Remember When. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, David
Thanks,
and Bud
everybody.
Black. So long, everybody.
21-8, Malvern leading. With 11:15 to go in the game. Henderson fakes the reverse to Tim Brown. Screen pass to Robinson this side. Renard gets a block. 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. The Hounds are back in it. The 39-yard pass to Renard Robinson, and just like that, the Greyhounds strike back.
44 seconds it took the Hounds to score. The Hounds drive it down the field, and they're back in it. Come on, Greyhounds.
Hounds have been stuffing them for no yardage rushing, and then all of a sudden a 68-yarder. 21-15 Malvern. They've got the ball at their 40. The tailback off tackle gets 3 or 4, breaks a tackle, has a gain of 4, ball pops free. Fumble. Newport says they've got it. Newport says they've got it. The Hounds have the ball. Newport recovers at the 45-yard line of Malvern with 10:52 to go, down by 6. Look at the fans. Look at the top of your screen. You wouldn't have to pickpocket anybody. They'd give you their billfold right now. First down, Newport at the 45-yard line of the Leopards. Hounds trying to come home and play in the semifinals. We're down 14-0 at the half. Greyhounds.
But incredible, just incredible. This Greyhound football team, when they got down 21-8, you said, you know, it's not the type of play that a championship caliber ball club needs to have. But boy, these Hounds have come roaring back. Come on, Greyhounds.
3rd and goal from, looks like outside the 1 yard or near the 1 yard line. Robinson, touchdown! Off left tackle, touchdown, Greyhounds! Renard Robinson with a touchdown and a twisting, diving move. We are tied at 21. And the Hound kicking team will come in to try to give Newport the lead. With 6:07 remaining in regulation. It is Malvern 21, Newport 21.
Newport has scored 21 points, Bud, in the last 6 minutes.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Good snap, good kick. Let's do it. Let's do it. The ball is down. Kick is on the way. Yes, 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 yes. Good. Yes. 22-21 Greyhounds. With 6:07 to go in regulation. And we're on the odd number now, so somebody's going to win it in regulation. 22-21 Newport, in one of the most dramatic Greyhound comebacks ever in their vaunted history. And now the deep. That a boy. That a boy.
That's it, Bud. The Hounds have won it. Incredible.
Can you believe this?
Incredible.
Can you believe this, ladies and gentlemen? Can you believe this unbelievable effort? It is one of the Newport Greyhounds' finest moments. Finest moments. I mean, in their history. And it's not a state championship game. It's not a conference championship game. I'm as proud of a bunch of kids as I've ever been. Holy smokes. Given up for dead twice. Without a break. And a roughing the passer penalty turned the tide. A fumble helped. And even after Malvern went back to a 21-8 lead, the Hounds refused to die. 2 great screen passes, one to Timmy Brown to set up, the other one to Renard for a touchdown, and all Newport from there on in. And Newport on the road, down 14-0 at the half, down 21-8 in the 4th quarter, scored 20 unanswered points in the 4th period, and whipped this talented Malvern Leopard football team 28-21, and the Greyhounds are going to the Final Four.